You are such a feminist, and you're twisting yourself and your personality in every single way to fit the like needs and wants of this man that you're reporting into. Like, how does that make sense? You're like sort of enabling this. And that slapped me so hard across the face. Like, that was the moment that I was like, I need to get out of here.
Welcome to the She's So Sweet podcast, where we interview accomplished women who have worked their way to the C-suite. I'm your host, Kristi Falteruso, Chief Customer Officer and award-winning CS executive. I am particularly excited about our guest today. I've got Mackenzie Hughes, who is the co-founder of Gold Hue. And fortunately, me and Mackenzie got to record other podcasts before today. So this is kind of like a part two on our conversation that we'll keep going in a very different direction, because today is all about Mackenzie. So Mackenzie, welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm super stoked to be on the other side of the microphone, so to speak. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm
excited about the raw and real conversation I think we are about to embark on. So folks who are listening, I mean, hold on to your seats, because this is going to be, I have a very good indication that this is going to go differently than maybe some of our other recordings, which is going to be really fun. All right, Mackenzie. So listen, before we get started, tell everybody who you are, what you do. Tell us about your role. Tell us about Gold Hue.
Yeah. Cool. So I left corporate a little more than a year ago, and I started a business with my co-founder, Tara Goldman, called Gold Hue. And we are an agency. We work with founders and product leaders to help them build a very impactful product and product team. And we really focus on things like product and engineering driving ROI and impact. And we work with all types of businesses. Our sweet spot is usually, Series A to D startups. We also work with public companies as well. So, we've been at it for over a year. We've been just having a great time. I can't say enough. It is a different world than where we were at in corporate. So that's what I'm up to right now.
All right, Mackenzie, well, we talked about this. I am, surprisingly, at least to you, a little risk adverse. So I'm a little jealous that you made the leap over a year ago. So how did you get the balls to do that?
I girl bossed myself into the ground. I think you might want to call it. Like, that's like such a, it's the millennial way, right? We were brought up to be like, if we just work so hard, it's going to be great. And for many of us, that is the opposite. I mean, I'm happy to talk you through the entirety of my career, but I think, the inflection point was, I've been in tech for about 11 years now. I'd been, initially working in sales, customer success, moved over to product, specifically product operations. And I was just burning myself out completely. I mean, tech has been in a really, really weird position, environment, whatever you want to call it, for the past couple of years. All of us are sort of working ourselves to death. And, it took a lot of therapy, a lot of coaching, and a lot of introspection and really listening to myself to get to the point of, I don't want to do this anymore. And I've always had the dream to build a business. So like, let's just do it. So a little bit of burning myself out, a little bit of listening to myself, and a little bit of delusion.
I think everybody who goes out on their own, whether they go and start a company or an agency in your case, you have to be a little delulu, right? Like, you have to believe that it's going to be great. Everything's going to work itself out. Yeah. This is my journey. This is my path. So I love that you're embracing that, because I feel like you have to be a little bit of crazy to just make the leap.
1000%.
Okay, well, I love that for you. All right, but listen, I am also confident that at some point in your life, before you convinced yourself that this was going to be your path, and that's not always what you wanted to do. I'm sure when you were young, you didn't have grand dreams of being a co-founder of Gold Hue, or maybe you did. But I want you to go way back, and I want little Mackenzie. What did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Yeah. I think the one thing that I wanted to do was the one thing that I was very good at, and that was art. So I did a lot of drawing and painting from a young age, and that's what I really enjoyed. So I think I wanted to be an artist. But if I really dug deep into where I thought I'd be at in, elementary or even high school, I had a really tough time in school. I didn't really have like a particular path or a lot of confidence that I would amount to what I have today. It just was never like in me until probably 11th grade. There was like a switch hit, and I got very, very good at school. I did a great job in college. I was like very much a nerd in the library basement, working really hard. And then from there, I think like once I got into the workforce, I got a lot of the validation, I guess, that I was seeking throughout my childhood, and I think that's why I eventually became an entrepreneur.
I love that. Okay, so I have to ask a question.
Sure.
Do you still draw? Do you still paint? Do you do anything? Yeah. Oh, okay. So tell me, what are you doing then in your free time? Tell me about your hobbies.
I have a lot of hobbies. I draw a lot. I paint as much as I can, but like I wouldn't say I'm doing this all day. It's usually like bursts of inspiration. I play guitar. Yeah, so I'm an overall creative person. I cook a lot. Like I love.
Do you think of cooking as art? Do you like because my food looks like poop. And so I wouldn't call what I make art. So when you're cooking, like, are you one of the people that like plates?
Because I know you're like a plate so I know you're like doing that ground turkey and rice bullshit. Like,
yes, we eat. My husband likes to refer to it as jog food. We basically all of our food goes into a bowl that you can mix together very quickly, and you don't look at it; you just eat it.
Allison does that. Like sometimes if I'll make some sort of bowl and she just sees me like cringing inside because I've done so much work to like plate it as nicely as possible. No, Kristi, I'm coming for real in the kitchen. Like I am not messing around. I will send.
All right. Well, I'm going to need some, I was just going to ask, I'm going to be like, I need proof because although I am a trusting person, I need to see that the food that you're plating is in fact art, if we're going to call it that.
Oh,
it's
art.
I need evidence.
It's seasoned to the gods. Like I'm serious. I'm serious.
Okay. Favorite thing to make? Name it.
You know what? I made something last night that's just like a staple for me, and it's like a roast chicken. And any side is fine. Like again, like I don't think you need to get fancy with a roast chicken. I think you can go crazy and even just do like olive oil and seasoning can make a great chicken. You can soak it overnight in buttermilk and salt and have a great concoction, or you can do like Korean style with gochujang. Like I have all the ideas, but there's so much you can do with a roast chicken, Kristi, and it's like quick. It's like you throw that thing in, it's in there for what, like 30-45 minutes, and you have a great meal. So
I mean, I have a very strong feeling that our chickens taste very different. Like my chicken has no flavor. It's always overcooked. It's a little dry. I think outside of like maybe my chicken cutlet, outside of that, any other chicken I make is like mediocre at best. And my kid is like, it's no wonder why she prefers Qdoba almost every day, because if I had to eat my food and I was her, I would opt for a DoorDash every time.
1,000. I understand where she's at, but like, we'll talk later. I
tell her, like, listen, if you want to eat well, then maybe you need to learn how to cook, right? This can't always be on me. Survival skills.
She needs to move into like my guest bedroom in Jersey City. I don't know. Like, listen, she might. Right?
She is going to college soon. You're right. She does. I mean, I think that I see a lot of mac and cheese and ramen in her future. So, poor girl. Okay. Well, this isn't an episode about my poor parenting, so we digress. We're going to move on. All right. Well, listen, I want to hear about how you got here, because I know that no one's journey is the same as somebody else's. So reflect for a moment, go back. What were some of the pivotal moments or decisions that you made that really contributed to your kind of ascent to where you are today?
Yeah. Cool. So I went into college to be an aspiring therapist. So I really love psychology. I took a lot of really, really cool classes, and like, there's like physiological psych and abnormal psych and like learning and memory and all of these things about, the human brain and behavior is incredibly interesting to me. still to this day. But, there was a point in college where I spent the summer living in Boston with my cousin and a bunch of friends, and I needed a job. And I ran into somebody who was canvassing on the street for Planned Parenthood. And I'm like, yeah, I love Planned Parenthood. Like, what can I do? I had no idea what this was. I was like, why are you saying Planned Parenthood? You know what I mean? And this guy was like, look, I'm canvassing, I'm raising money. And I was like, look, doc, I don't have any money at all. So what can I do? So I got a job there, and it was such a great community of people who, like, we got paid garbage, but we did this really crazy thing. You're standing on the street talking to people about politics and asking them for money. It's like everything your mom tells you not to do, you're out there doing it for a job. You know what I mean? So that was over a summer in college. And then once I was getting out of college, our teachers very much like, you have to go and get like a master's, PhD. And, I loved school and I loved learning, but I was like, I'm kind of feeling this social justice route. So I went and I did that. And I, led a bunch of canvassing offices in Raleigh and New York and LA. And I moved a bunch, and I worked with a lot of really, really cool people, worked on a lot of really great campaigns, with Planned Parenthood, ACLU, Save the Children. I worked on the Obama campaign in 2012, which, like, if anybody's worked on a presidential campaign, they can tell you it's insane. Like, you're running around knocking on doors, you're working 80 hours a week until like the buzzers hit, but I was young, so I could do that. I could keep up with the energy, but eventually it's just like it's unsustainable. So I left that, and I did a quick stint in PR, which, like, anybody who knows me is like, what are you talking about? You worked in PR, but it's where I landed. I did that for about a year. And then ever since then, I've been in tech. So the first tech company I worked at, really interesting, very small company. We were going through like incubators and accelerators. We spent a ton of time in San Francisco. And again, this is like 2014. So it was like, the height of tech insanity. Yep. Everybody could build a startup, and like, there was just a fervor in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. You know what I mean? So I started there. I was doing sales. Eventually started working at a bigger startup called Work Market, which is one of the best experiences I ever had. I worked there for 5 years, leading customer success, and we got acquired by ADP. It was just like, it was an awesome ride, Yeah. Eventually I got frustrated not being able to act on the things that my customers, my team's customers needed. So I got product management certified, and I actually ended up working in product operations at another startup. So that got my start into product operations in general. And then my last gig was at a large, like, public ed tech company. So I've worked at all these startups and public companies at very different stages, very different industries, from like workforce management to IT to education, right? So that was sort of my story. And then, I mean, that brings us back to a question that you had asked earlier, like, what was the thing that flipped me over to start my business? So that's a bit about my journey professionally. Personally, we can ask other questions, but yeah.
So at what point in that journey did you meet Tara, your co-founder?
Yeah, Tara actually hired me at Electric. So that was in 2021. And we were introduced by her, she was CPO, her partner CTO, a mutual friend, Yotam. He and I had worked together at Work Market for quite some time. And he, it took a bit of convincing, because Tara was like, what? She comes from customer success. Like, what do you mean she could do product operations? Yotam was like, just trust me. And she and I just hit it off immediately. So that's how we met.
Okay, now that's obviously an important moment in your career, because obviously meeting Tara is kind of what brought you here. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I love that. Now I want to go dig into some of the ick that exists in our career paths. So I always tell people, I'm like, listen, nobody's paths, they don't look the same, and they don't come without battle scars, right? Like, it sucks, but it's like you kind of have to like earn your wings a little bit. I wish that wasn't the case, or I wish that we didn't feel like we had to. But shit happens, and our careers are going to take a whole bunch of different paths. So share with us, like, what were some of these significant challenges or obstacles that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many. There's so many, and there's some that are from external forces, and there are others that are internal and sort of self-wrought, right? Like, and I think I there was never a moment where I felt particularly super comfortable working in corporate America, because I truly believe corporate America was not built for me. You know what I mean? So I sort of like gaslit myself throughout that time that I should feel comfortable and feel anxiety free. And I just, I don't know. I don't believe that now. Like, people talk a lot about imposter syndrome, and I'm like, this is the most insane concept I've ever heard. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, corporate America is not comfortable for us, but now it's my problem. Like, I don't, it doesn't make sense. Like, how did you guys gaslight us enough that you came up with this term that, like, now I have like a disorder?
Right. Yes. Yeah. We all should seek therapy. It's actually all of us. We're all broken.
We're all broken. And I'm like, so I think a little bit of it was self-wrought, where I took everything so seriously all the time. And I just felt like anxiety and ignored a lot of feelings that I had throughout. But sometimes I was able to really pass through that anxiety, whether it was like a presentation or like, a really important client visit. And those moments felt really good. I talked on a podcast recently about, I had to do this big speech at NYU. The head of my company, Work Market, asked me to go speak at it. It was like an LGBTQ conference for people with MBAs. And I was just like, weeks in advance was just dying. I was like, I can't do this. And once I got on stage and I did that, and I spoke on a panel as well, I was like, that was like one of the best moments of my life. Because I had pushed myself through that anxiety. In terms of the external stuff, I mean, I think, something that's resonated with me that you stated over and over again is you learn as much from the good bosses as you do the bad bosses. And I've had my fair share. Like, Tara is a great example of my best boss of all time, because she built up my confidence. She gave me a lot of autonomy. She trusted in me, and she was just like a normal person, She just, in her most vulnerable moments, I remember she'd be like, man, like, I just had this conversation with somebody. I just felt like a little girl. And I was like, my boss is saying this to me. This is so illuminating, and it makes me feel so comfortable that she's able to share those things. I've had other bosses, and they share very particular traits, which is a lot of narcissism, which is like they are very much about their own PR, their own image above anything else, right? And they are absolutely obsessed with that to the detriment of everybody around them. And I think another shared trait is this sort of like, I'm sure you've experienced it, like odd, manipulation, where they give you this sort of feedback and they sort of make you feel very small and inadequate, which I believe is a reflection of them more than anything. And you start sort of like questioning, and you're like, oh, maybe I don't even know how to work. Maybe I'm shitty at my job. Maybe I don't know anything. Right. And there have been bosses that I've worked with that have made me feel that way and made me feel very small and question everything. And, that's led to me not asking for more money, or not asking for a promotion, or not pushing for things. And it, frankly, has brought me to some really dark places. Right. And I think a wake up moment for me on that side of like dealing with external forces, I got a lot out of, my career coach, this woman, Jackie, who, after working with me for some time, I was like, trying to navigate this situation with a particular boss. And she was like, you are such a feminist, and you're twisting yourself and your personality in every single way to fit the like needs and wants of this man that you're reporting into. Like, how does that make sense? You're like sort of enabling this. And that slapped me so hard across the face. Like, that was the moment that I was like, I need to get out of here. You know what I mean? Where I was like, wait, I'm enabling all the things that I don't agree with. What am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? I'm changing my personality. I'm putting on a mask and destroying myself and I'm not listening to that voice inside that's saying like, this is not where you should be and this is not how you should be acting.
It's really interesting. And we're going to flip this conversation around because we're talking about a male leader in this particular instance. And I feel like obviously this is a podcast for women, by women, right? Like it's very empowering, but I also don't want us to live in this world where we feel like men are the example of bad leaders, right? And it's like men have created this world where we can't thrive and we can't succeed, because I have equally seen bad behavior in female leaders.
Yep.
The She's So Sweet podcast is brought to you by Client Success. Client Success is an all-in-one customer success platform to help post-sale implementation and success teams manage customers from new to renew. Through an industry-leading platform approach, Client Success gives businesses an in-depth view into customer health, product usage trends, along with churn and risk data so that your team can not only retain customers, but help them grow as well. Whether it's managing customer onboarding workflows in shared portals, building custom health scores, tracking sentiment with NPS surveys, or doing more with less through AI and automations, Client Success gives customer success professionals a true one-stop platform to manage all aspects of the customer journey. To learn more about the industry's fastest to implement customer success platform, visit www.clientsuccess.com. That's Client Success. Simple, powerful customer success. One of the things that has triggered me, I would say over the past 12 months, we'll say, and it even goes back further, but I did a post like a year or so ago, and it was my most viral post. And it was like, my worst leader I ever had was a woman. And oh my gosh, the feelings that people had about this. And some, oh my gosh, I'm glad somebody said it. And other people saying like, you're doing a huge disservice to women by saying that. And I'm like, well, no, it's my truth. It's my reality. So I can put it out there and say it, because you can't tell me that all women are amazing leaders.
Sure.
Now, fast forward. I spent a lot of time, almost too much time, rotting on TikTok. And so as I scroll through, one of the things that thank you for validating that is okay.
I think that was we bonded on.
Yes.
Addiction problem. We're like, that we got to get off this.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I should, but I'm not going to. But one of the things that I have found myself on is the side of TikTok where it is women in their early to mid 20s, maybe late 20s, who are talking about the toxic female leaders that they are working under. And so like, let's talk about this for a minute and share with me your perspective and kind of what do you see? What do you observe? Because I think you nailed it when we did our kind of pre-prep for our show, is that there is a very particular type of persona that exists and seemingly is holding other women back from growing and succeeding and thriving in these professional environments. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And I'm going to be extremely candid here. I've had this same experience. So I'm glad that you went ahead and made that post. And again, like I sort of saw the same, the things that I just shared about the guy boss that I had were the same that I've seen in women and leaders and sort of, putting other women down or sort of making them crawl over the barbed wire that they believe that they had and all of that stuff. And I think there's like a lot of internalized misogyny that's happening there. So I've absolutely experienced this. And I want to be clear, right? Like, I'm sure there are times where I was a shitty boss, where I was that shitty woman boss, straight up. Like, I have gone over the past few years on my own, anti-racism journey and done a lot of self-reflecting and learning. And I am sure I've done a lot of harm to people in the past, which I have to deal with and conquer internally. Right. But I think there's a lot of people that don't do that. And they continue to sort of harm women in the workplace. And I have actually heard from quite a few Black women in leadership that they're like, sometimes I would actually rather work for a straight white guy than a white woman. And it shocked me at first. And I was like, what, really? And they're like, yes, because there's a lot of white women who pretend to be allies and then completely do these very manipulative, destructive things. So that really opened my eyes. into, you know, a battle that I myself, you know, am not experiencing as a white woman, but like, again, so your perspective, I think, resonates for a lot of us and for a lot of different people in different ways, for sure.
That's interesting, because that's not a perspective I've heard. And so I'm glad to hear that, because it's something I can learn from. I mean, but this is why I have found myself gravitating towards working for men, is because I've actually had very few strong female leaders. And I think that the disservice that has created for me personally is that you emulate, right, the behaviors of those that you see before you.
Sure.
And so because I worked for so many bad female leaders who were just a bad cast of characters, right? Like they, again, to your point, narcissism, manipulation, gaslighting. I mean, I really like almost to like hold me down
like,
to secure their spot. Right? I know, right. There are no limits on their creativity in terms of how they execute that strategy. But because of that, I've not felt like it's safe for me any longer to work for female leaders. And so I think that is just one story in a world of billions of women who might be struggling in the same way. And so I'm optimistic that the more that we talk about it and address it, that hopefully people get better. But it's like, I do feel like it came from a time where people just like, they believed that they had to act a certain way to succeed. And it's almost like this survivor's mentality that they grew up in professionally. And they just haven't learned the skills, and I think made peace with it themselves. Like, you don't have to behave like that any longer, right? There's room for everybody to succeed. And in fact, if you behave differently, everyone will be more successful, including yourself.
Totally. Yeah. And that's why it's hard, right? Because, you know, we're talking about men versus women leadership. And I believe I'm a person that's learned over the past few years to live in the gray, to live in the nuance of things. So I hate being like this persona, that persona, right? But so that's why I'm like, yes, I absolutely hate it. And I need them to check themselves, and I need them to learn. And it's very frustrating, but there is an appreciation for what they have done so that we are able to, you know, step into the workforce. And I think it's something that like, it's come to me because of all the people that fought before me for, you know, the rights of LGBTQ people. Right. And like my grandma is gay, and I'm like, her experience and how she operates in the world is very different from me as a queer woman in this day and age. Right. So like, I respect my elders and all the things that they did to fight for it, and their insane experiences that they had to go through. And I understand that that scar tissue is there. Right. So I try to understand every experience, have a bit of empathy, but the reality is, and what we're talking about is, everybody is accountable for how they show up in the world. Which is why I think it's really important that people do as much work on themselves as possible. And you feel it, you know, the people that in the workplace that do the work and don't. And I'm like, why is this, you know, person who's decades older than me, like, I see them like struggling with their inner demons and head trash. And I'm like, dude, like, this would be so much better if you just did a little bit of work, you know, not just for yourself, but for all of us.
Right,
like,
right.
Like, this is terrible because you're not dealing with your shit. So,
well, hopefully this is encouraging for anybody who is listening, that if you have not dealt with your shit, maybe this is your wake up call and go do that. Right. And if you're somebody suffering under poor leadership, leave them a Post-it and let them know that they should be better. Do better.
Feedback. If you have one takeaway from this, leave people feedback on Post-its on their desk. Walk away. Do not follow up. Thank you. You heard it here first.
Pro tip. Okay. Well, listen, as much as we could probably go down this rabbit hole for another hour about all the things that we've had to endure and overcome, I do love taking a moment to celebrate success. And I feel like that's something we also don't do enough of, right? Best. Every successful woman I know is on to the next goal, on to the next milestone, right? They achieve something. They don't even have time to stop and actually acknowledge that they did it, because they've already, they're weeks, months, years into the next thing that they're tackling. Totally. And so this is a forcing function for us to go and acknowledge all of the success that you had in your career, because obviously you would not be where you are if you didn't have those successes.
Totally.
So reflect back for a moment. What are some of your proudest moments?
Yeah. And so true what you're saying. I'm like, all right, quick dopamine hit from like that thing and then moving on. It's like we definitely do not take the time. I feel like a lot of us have that negative bias. I mean, the whole thing, Kristi, I've come to a point in my life where I am really, really proud of all, that I've accomplished and that Tara and I are accomplishing at Gold Hue. Like, it's insane. I'm serious. I'm like, how are we, at this moment, I'm like, we have too much work, and we're like not even a year into business. And I had faith in us. I'm like, we're just going to do this thing. And like, it will succeed because I cannot go back. So it has to. So, just starting a business and seeing success, pretty quickly, closing our first few deals within like 60 to 90 days. I'm like, what's the standard sales cycle here? I'm really proud of the community that we've built. We do a lot of roundtables and webinars and things like that, where we quickly see particularly a lot of women opening up about, what they're experiencing, particularly in tech right now and the environment. And I'm proud that we've built some really cool communities and safe spaces. And generally, like, I think I'm proud of every step I've taken in my career because it got me to this place, right? And I'm proud of myself for, although there were certain times where I wasn't myself and I twisted myself in different ways, and really tamped down that inner voice. I'm glad that I have tapped back into that and I've leaned into it. So I think those are sort of the things that I see as successful. And then generally, like, one moment that I reflect on often is this woman, Caitlin, has worked for me at like, I think it was 3 places. I just kept dragging her to different places. And she got married last year and she's like, I need you to meet my mom. And she dragged me over to her mom, and her mom was like holding on to me. And she's like, Mackenzie, like, you have made such an impact on my daughter and all these things. And I was just like, this is crazy, because like, I feel the same about her. Like, I've learned so much from Caitlin, and she's just an incredible person, a very, very good friend of mine still to this day. But that was a moment that was really dope. I was like, somebody's mom's being like, thank God you got my daughter, like, these things. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. She's like a million times smarter than me. I'm just glad that we happened upon each other and found each other. You know what I mean? But it was a really, really cool moment.
It's so funny as you were telling these stories, I'm like, she better tell the story about being at this employee's wedding, because I was like, what I think it says is a lot about the leaders that I do get to invite onto this show, is that almost always they talk about their successes, and I love that, but they almost always talk about the impact they've had on others as being a moment of success for them. And I think that is a true testament of a fantastic leader, right? Because your success is not only the work that you've done to grow yourself professionally, but like the impact you're having on others along the way. Yeah. So I think it's a beautiful story that you get to share. And I'm glad to hear that it's a moment that you reflect on often, because we forget about not only the impact we have on businesses and our bank accounts at times, but like the impact that we're having on people. And I think that is the more lasting success story.
100%.
All right. Well, all right. We're going to segue a little bit, because it wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't get to this statement. But I love the saying, empowered women empower women. I do think that it is important that we try to lean in and help others. And so I'd love to hear more about, what do you do to empower other women?
It's an interesting question. I think it's, again, like going back to, the privilege I've had to step out of corporate America, you know what I mean? And be vulnerable and be open and honest and create, those spaces for women, whether it is, Tara and I are hosting a chief roundtable today about, the what the world is like for women in this sort of like post DEI era, and like tech in this very weird spot. Right. And I'm super excited about the conversation. We also have like a monthly entrepreneurship hour that's only women, and, we do a lot to support each other there. And then I'm on the phone all day with my friend. Like, me and my good friend have, social hour is what we call it. And sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's multiple. And I talk to a lot of my friends throughout the day, but like a lot of people, particularly women, are struggling right now in tech. I think it's just like, it's the environment is different. It's not as uplifting. They're really having a hard time. So being able to just be there for my friends who, you know, aren't out there and like doing exactly what they want to do. And they're sort of like, you know, either stuck or, you know, they just have to be in an environment that's not particularly great for them. I think just being there to support and listen is really important. So hopefully those things. And then Tara and I try as much as possible to like get people jobs when they need it. I mean, Tara's got this massive network of people and, you know, we're pretty involved in the New York tech scene. So like whenever we see something, we try to hook people up as well. So I guess those are the things.
I love that. I mean, you could have listed one of those things and I would have been like, great, you answered the question. Thank you, Mackenzie. No, I mean, like, listen, it doesn't need to be formal work that we do, right? And so I really actually more appreciate the day-to-day way you engage and you lean into opportunities. So I think that's fantastic. And I'm sure your friends sound like they're huge benefactors of your approach to that. And obviously being a listening ear is
yeah, I mean, they're on the other side listening to my bullshit too. So like, let's be real. I'm not like out here being a saint martyr, right? Like I'm like, you know, complaining about my own shit to them. So
yeah, but you help each other. You help each other. Yeah. And that's what's important. All right. Well, listen, I am always interested in this question because I feel like it's interesting to hear how people respond. So I'm not even going to lead the witness here. Yeah. What does balance look like for you in your life? Right. You're running a company. Yeah. You have hobbies. You've got chicken to roast. And so how do you find balance to do it all?
Some weeks I don't, man. Like this week is killing me. I'm like, we're loaded up right now. I'm burning the candle at both ends or whatever the saying is. But I actually have a monitor that I fill out every day. It's like red, yellow, green. And I have like my 5 factors that I measure myself on, like, you know, physical health. Am I feeling, good mentally or empowered with myself? There's like a few others. I forget all the categories that I fill out, but I do like a little tracker on that and I make little notes. So I try to observe myself a lot and like figure out what makes a good day and what makes a neutral or not so great day. But generally I, like you, wake up in the morning, I go to the gym probably 5-6 days a week. That usually starts off my day really well. I try to eat as healthy as I can and like, you know, not neglect that. And I also just spend a lot of time with my fiance, Allison, and like, we just love each other's company so much. So that's great. That's usually like my after hours. And then thankfully I'm in, you know, Jersey City, so I can run downstairs and like see friends and, you know, hang out as much as possible. I will say like COVID and working at home has definitely made me a little bit more isolated. I need to work a little bit more on that like community and being with friends and family a little bit more. I do visit my family pretty frequently on Long Island, but yeah, I think that's generally my balance. But like, do I achieve it every day? Absolutely not. But you know, I try to.
So you pay attention though. Like I like the idea of like the tracking thing, and I might offline ask you like, how are you tracking this? What are you using? A notebook, a whiteboard? Or like I'm very curious.
I'm Google sheet, Kristi. You know me.
Oh my gosh. I know as much as I try to embrace tech, so I do something similar. But like I have to be. I'm like the least tech person ever. I have like a notebook. For those of you who are listening and not watching, I just held up my weekly priorities plan. This is actually what I use for like my content creation. But like I do have a habit tracker at the top of that, and I like keep track of my habits. But it has to be with pen and paper because I can't with the technology.
I know. Because every day we're in the Google Sheets and whatnot. It's like, let me get a break.
I know.
I hear you.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to spend just a minute offering some additional advice to folks because I know that this is like probably my favorite part about how we end, but you have a lot of thoughts and a lot of experience here based off your own journey. So if you were offering a piece of advice to our listeners before we wrap up today, what's the one thing you want to leave them with?
Yeah. I think it's listening to yourself. If something feels off, it doesn't feel right, listen. And I think generally it's always good to have just a vision. Like who do you want to be and where do you want to go? And figure out little ways that you can work towards that. It's very easy to get lost, right? Like it's very easy to I think the easiest thing is like, measuring how well you're doing with money. It's not it. Like that's not it. So figure out, the things that actually do bring you happiness. Happiness is much harder to get than actually earning money. Do the hard thing. And whatever levers you need to pull, figure that out to get to where you want to be. Tons of people will be around you sort of knocking you off balance or guiding you in a different direction in this like very capitalist society. But listen to yourself, have a vision, figure out where you need to be, and like invest in yourself as much as you can, whether that is like, doing therapy, doing coaching, building a business, learning new skills. Like you will never regret investing in that.
I think that is an amazing way to conclude our episode today. So Mackenzie, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for the banter and the humility and the authenticity. It's what I expected from our conversation. So just thank you for being you.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, for those of you who stayed through the end of this episode, and I hope it was all of you, I hope you enjoyed. Please rate, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Hi, guys. I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays, of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.